Tonight, a grisly discovery in Pickering.
It was the human remains of a newborn infant.
The baby's remains were found by a passerby. Police are investigating. Plus,
we made the wrong decision that night. On behalf of the Toronto Police Service, I want to apologize.
a rare apology from Toronto police after they failed to tell the police watchdog about an off-duty officer involved in the beating of Devontae Miller. And River and Dundas still shut down tonight, hours after a construction crane collapsed onto the street. Good evening, I'm Marivel Tarouk. Durham police are investigating after a newborn infant's remains were found by Lake Ontario in Pickering this afternoon.
So it was just after 3 o'clock when a citizen that was walking along the waterfront trail, specifically on the beach area, located what she describes as human remains. We responded with the fire crews and confirmed that it was the human remains of a newborn infant. And we have called the coroner to attend the scene. We have closed off this certain area for the investigation.
Police don't yet know how long the baby was in the water or how it got there. They're asking anyone with information to contact them. A cyclist is dead after they were struck by a vehicle in Mississauga tonight. It happened near Dixie Road and the QEW at around 9:30 tonight. Peel police say the driver of the vehicle remained on scene. Roads are closed in the area for the investigation. Neighbors say a man was found dead in a home in East York this afternoon, and his partner was later arrested. As Lauren Pelly reports, major questions remain about what happened.
The couple at this Greenwood Avenue home was known for their love of gardening, but today that front yard was surrounded by police tape. Witnesses told us one man is dead and his husband arrested.
One of the guys was taken away in handcuffs today, and the other one was taken away in a body bag.
Al Green lives next door to the couple's home.
Sweet guys, both guys, never, never gave us any grief.
Police are staying tight-lipped about the investigation. Officers told CBC Toronto a call came in shortly before 10 this morning, and investigators were on scene throughout the day, including members of the homicide squad. But the force won't say if anyone has been charged. That's leaving residents here with more questions than answers.
Great neighbors, always shared their stuff. So this is quite shocking, to be honest with you.
Lauren Pelly, CBC News, Toronto.
An apology from Toronto's interim police chief today regarding the force's handling of the beating of Devontae Miller. An off-duty Toronto police officer has been convicted. Today, we learned the force knew one of their officers was involved that night, but chose not to alert the Office of the Independent Police Review Director. Lorenda Redekop has that story.
On behalf of the Toronto Police Service, I want to apologize.
This from the new interim police chief, less than a week on the job. James Raymer responded today to the OIPRD report looking into a complaint following the beating of Devontae Miller. The findings of the report haven't been made public. The interim chief said Toronto police were alerted the night it happened in December 2016, but didn't call the police watchdog.
We used the information available to us that evening to determine whether we should report to the SIU. We made the wrong decision that night.
Miller's lawyer is the one who contacted the Special Investigations Unit months later. Off-duty Toronto police officer Michael Theriault has since been convicted of assault. His brother Christian was found not guilty of charges against him. Initially, Miller, blinded in one eye, was the only one facing charges. All along, his lawyer has said the police inaction was clearly wrong. Michael Theriault even identifies himself as an officer.
Apparently, Chief Saunders hasn't listened to the 911 tape. So there is absolutely no doubt that SIU should have been notified.
3 years ago, the former chief defended the response.
To say that this is a cover-up is misleading. It was not a cover-up. My officers acted in good faith.
How can a secret report bring accountability?
Author and activist Desmond Cole has written about this case.
I did document this sequence of events In my book, I documented the denials of the police that they even knew Defonte was attacked, to then Mark Saunders saying, sure, we knew, but we had very good reasons to not calling the SIU.
He feels more officers than just Michael Theriault should be charged in connection with what happened that night and what followed.
I found the press conference this morning extremely condescending because it's asking us to believe that only now do the police realize that when one of their officers beats someone and causes a lifelong injury, that maybe they should call the SIU, that they didn't know that 3.5 years ago. They must think we're stupid.
Michael Theriault is still on the force, suspended with pay. His father, recently retired, was part of the Toronto Police Professional Standards Unit at the time of the offense. Another report is still expected, looking into a complaint about his conduct. We expect to hear Miller's response tomorrow. His lawyer says this all came as a surprise, and they only received the report shortly before the police news conference. He says he wanted to give his client time to go through the report. Lorenda Redicomp, CBC News, Toronto.
The intersection of Dundas and River remains closed tonight after a crane collapsed onto the intersection this morning. Miraculously, no one was hurt. But as Greg Ross reports, some people got out of the way just in time.
This dashcam video shows the exact moment the crane fell.
I happened to look out my window and I saw the arm of the crane going up, and it just kept going up. And I realized at that point that it was falling.
Jennifer LaChance says she was in her 14th floor apartment across the street from the construction site when she saw the crane going down.
And I went out and I watched it in slow motion just come off.
She says she could feel it all the way up in her apartment when it hit the ground.
It was a bang, and the floor shook.
Fortunately, there was nobody in the crane when it fell, and nobody on the ground was hurt. But Toronto Fire Platoon Chief Dan Sell says there was a very close call.
A cyclist got off her bike just in time before the crane crashed on her, onto the bikes, a near miss.
While the woman managed to escape, her bike wasn't so lucky. It was crushed under the crane, just a small fraction of the total damages caused by the collapse.
You could see it did touch the building, knocked down high voltage lines, including the 600-volt TTC line for the streetcars.
Not only did that shut down all streetcar service in the area, it left residents in nearby buildings, many who are working from home, without power.
My cell phone company, the cell phone plan gives me unlimited data right now, so tether it in. Just got to do what you got to do, right? Don't open the fridge as much as you can, but beyond that, just keep on going. I guess we're eating takeout tonight.
Platoon Chief Sell says things could have been far worse if crews on the construction site hadn't taken swift action as soon as they noticed the problems with the crane.
They were very sharp about noticing the defect, stopping any work, and then clearing the area.
It's going to take a while to get this cleaned up. In fact, they're going to wait until tomorrow. That's when they're going to bring in 4 large mobile cranes. They're going to chop the crane that has fallen into pieces before they start to remove it. They say it could take all day. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
Toronto Public Health saying tonight they have concerns about the Toronto District School Board's reopening plan, specifically when it comes to class sizes. The Ford government is facing growing pressure over its plan for getting kids back to school. Critics say proposed elementary class sizes are too large to create physical distancing, but the Premier continued to defend the plan today.
We have the best plan, bar none, over any province. All the other provinces are shouting and screaming saying we want Ontario's plan.
Still, some shifts could be in store for the school reopening plan, according to the Education Minister.
We're going to work very closely with the medical minds in this province, with our unions, with our school boards, with parents, to make sure that this living document is only strengthened over time, that we could do more, and I think we can.
NDP leader Andrea Horwath is calling the government's back-to-school plan, quote, bargain basement, and says it simply isn't good enough to ensure that kids and teachers are safe. Also coming out of today's news conference, the province is investing $6 million to help police services fight crime.
We're investing that money over 3 years into 21 projects to combat gun and gang violence, to combat human trafficking, and to combat sexual and domestic violence in all its forms.
The funding for today's announcement comes from assets police have seized from criminals. The premier says in Toronto the money will be used to help young people at risk of joining gangs and to go after the people who recruit them. Restaurants have until tomorrow to apply for the city's Cafe TO program. The Quick Start program allows restaurants and bars to expand their dining capacity, including outdoor patios, to help with physical distancing during the summer months. The application deadline is tomorrow at noon. Cafe TO now supports more than 600 restaurants citywide. The program is scheduled to end for the season on November 15th. One thing that has remained resilient through the pandemic, the GTA's housing market. July was a record-breaking month for existing home sales, which were up nearly 30% from a year ago. The average selling price is also up, now just sitting shy of $1 million. Farah Morali reports.
This is us. After months of searching, Brad and Alicia Gagnon have found a home.
We have this deck that they built for us.
Last month, they bought this 2-bedroom house near Gerrard and Woodbine, but it wasn't exactly cheap.
We got a great home. It's successful, but we definitely didn't have some sort of, we didn't get away with a robbery here in terms of getting a home for this fantastic price just because the economy's down in the toilet. I don't know.
On the same day they put an offer on this house, they put another offer on a townhouse in Riverdale. It had a dozen other bids and ended up going for $100,000 more than they offered.
It's insane.
Yeah,
we didn't expect
really surprised.
that. We thought we'd have a chance to get a deal, right? Everyone does. Like, okay, this is a bad situation, but maybe we have a chance to actually live in a home we couldn't have afforded before.
According to the latest real estate numbers, the Gagnons weren't the only ones closing a deal last month. Here's what the numbers show. Last month, around 11,000 homes were sold. That's up a whopping 29% from July of last year. Of the sales, more than 5,000 were detached homes and roughly 2,500 were condos. If you're curious about the average selling price, that now sits at more than $943,000. Compare that to last July, it's up nearly 17%.
We did come to a halt in that whole April-May, and which basically put together a pent-up demand. And that's what we're seeing in through this whole June-July aspect.
With more people working from home, there's also been an increased demand for bigger homes further outside the downtown core.
This July was really insane. I don't think I've ever been this busy ever, and I've been in real estate this long.
This broker says don't expect those sales and prices to drop.
It's still Toronto. Unless we get a huge second wave, which a lot of people are thinking about, then it might pause the market again. But I don't see the market dropping anytime soon.
For Brad and Alicia, they're just happy to be out of the bidding wars and on to the next challenge.
Pull this out, hot tub here.
Backyard renos. Yeah. Farah Morali, CBC News, Toronto.
Coming up, directional arrows in hallways, bottles of hand sanitizer, and designated seating. Just some of the changes coming to schools in the fall. We'll give you a tour after the break. Plus,
another nice night ahead and a few days with sunshine ahead of us as well. I'm meteorologist Colette Kennedy. Exactly how many? I'm going to answer that question. That's coming up with your forecast after the break.
With only a few weeks to go before back to school, students and parents are wondering what to expect. The Windsor-Essex Catholic School Board has released its return to school plan. Stacey Janzer visited one school to see how it'll work.
For now, these larger areas will be closed.
Here at St. Thomas Villanova, students will be told what entrances they can enter through. They'll have to wear a mask, sanitize their hands, and physically distance. Arrows show students which ways to walk, and between classes, a staggered release so hallways don't fill up.
We know that there's a lot of uncertainty, and we know that many of our students are probably very anxious right now and very concerned about returning to school.
For the most vulnerable students, this high school will bring them into the building early so that they can get comfortable before the start of session. But for those starting on September 8th, it's much like the plan the province has already laid out. Here, 600 students will be allowed in class a day. Class size maximum, 15. Students will attend 2 classes a day, each 2.5 hours long. Every desk is labeled with a 1 or a 2, informing students which desk to sit at depending on the period. Rooms will be cleaned regularly.
We do have 2 washrooms here. Male, female, and if you'll notice, we've limited the capacity of our washrooms.
Signs around the school act as reminders on how many people can be in a room at a time. If a student shows signs of COVID, they'll be isolated and sent home to seek medical advice. Meanwhile, in elementary schools, full class sizes, desks 1 meter apart. In this classroom of 20 students, children will be placed in 1 of 5 color groups.
If the teacher says, now I'd like the red group to come up, she's going to make sure that she has the red group spaced out within the classroom, and we have them spaced 1 meter apart to meet the requirements of physical distancing.
But some remain concerned about the plan.
Why risk an experiment with our children?
Christopher Layton is a retired radiation oncologist and part-time undergraduate medicine educator. He also has an immunodeficiency. He worries about ventilation in the classrooms.
30 children, just 1 of whom is infected, in a closed classroom for hours, exhaling just at a regular respiration rate. If there is not ventilation, you're posing a great risk to the remainder of the group.
In a statement, the Catholic Board says our Facilities Services Department has done a complete assessment of all of our schools' HVAC systems to make sure that they are in excellent working condition. They will continue to do proactive reviews of all equipment in order to identify any required repairs, which will become a top priority. This is just a start. The board still has some further planning to do before school starts next month. Stacey Janzer, CBC News, LaSalle.
It was so nice I was able to crack open the windows last night to feel the cool night air. Kind of hoping for more of that. Meteorologist Colette Kennedy is here with the forecast. Colette.
Thanks, Maribel. You know, we had just beautiful conditions last night. I mean, if you like some cooler temperatures and lower dew points so it's more comfortable sleeping weather, and we're going to be repeating that actually tonight. Maybe not quite as cool. We'll take a look at what those numbers actually were, but another good night tonight with some clearer skies and quiet conditions, and more of this too. We're going to have some sunshine sticking around for a few days here, and yeah, we're approaching a weekend, so that's nice to see. But by the end of the weekend, I do have to tell you, those dew points, kind of that moisture content in the air, it's going to start to rise. So we're going to see those Humidex values start to rise as well. It gets a little bit stickier out there. So the daytime temperatures, this is a snapshot from 6 a.m. this morning. This is actually a roundup because we were looking at about 13.6 degrees. So round that up to 14 for Toronto. But do you notice something here? Some single digits, like Peterborough at 7 degrees, Kitchener at 9, Barrie, it was 8 degrees at 6 a.m. this morning. That well, at least in my book, that would mean some long sleeves or even a light jacket if you were out there trying to do some exercising, walking the dog early this morning. But then into the afternoon hours, we saw those temperatures rising, in some cases getting there into the mid-20s, but lots of lower 20s too for the daytime highs into the afternoon hours. High pressure building in, keeping the active weather away around the Great Lakes. And so especially for the lower Great Lakes, you can see close by there over New York State, but keeping it to the south of us, a little bit of that cloud cover trying to push in across Lake Ontario, trying to get towards Kingston, not making it though, so it stays to the south. We keep that sunshine through not only Friday into Saturday as well, but the humidity begins building. Now, we'll notice it not as much Saturday as you will into Sunday. By the time we get towards Monday, we get into a chance of seeing some thunderstorm activity coming back, maybe a little bit earlier than that, more so into Sunday for southwestern Ontario. But for tonight, southwestern Ontario, this is what it looks like. With those clearer skies, it gives a chance for those temperatures to fall off. So for tonight, looking at lows of about 13 degrees. A few areas you might drop down there a little bit cooler than that. But tomorrow afternoon, heating things back up pretty close to seasonal for those daytime highs. And then for Toronto tonight, we're looking at about 15 degrees for that low. St. Catharines around 16. Tomorrow afternoon, a little bit warmer than today. And it's kind of like that where each day the temperature gets a bit warmer. So by Saturday, it's 28. It'll feel like about 32. But by Sunday, 29, it's going to feel more like 35, 36 with that humidex value. And it will be sticky into Monday, Tuesday. Yes, and that chance of some scattered showers and thunderstorms coming back, Maribel.
Okay, thanks, Colette.
The weather is brought to you by Trane, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. We test, so it runs. It's hard to stop a train.
He traveled a long way to get to Prince Edward Island, all the way from Texas. Winston the dog has had a rough time in life. He was hit by a car, found in a ditch, and had to have part of his hind leg amputated. But now he's getting help from some university students in Nova Scotia and is living the life of a local celebrity. Take a look.
I had registered to volunteer with an organization, Save a Life Canada Animal Rescue Society, and I was just looking through their website, and then I saw his profile, and he was in Texas. He had been struck by a car, he was recovering. He had a partial amputation on one of his hind legs, and on his other side, he had a hip relocation. So when I saw his picture, oh my God, something just told me that he was meant to be my dog. There was much more work initially because we had to do Epsom salt soaks, I think for 2-3 months. His amputated leg kept on getting infected for some reason. Therapy, like massages, he was getting laser and acupuncture, and just I'd massage him too, just to make sure that things didn't seize up because he couldn't really walk on his only hind leg without using a stump. Oh, people just love him. It's been so much fun. He has such a neat little fan base and people are so kind. It's really nice. And when we meet people too and they recognize him, like it's so exciting, and he loves meeting new people. So it's been really heartwarming to watch. Feeling very grateful that he ended up in my care because he is really like a great dog. I felt we're very well suited. Just his prosthesis, the first one was covered by the rescue organization, but then his stump matured and got much smaller, so his first prosthesis didn't fit. So then we got a second one in January, and that one still, like the issue, it doesn't stay on his body, so I'm hoping this time with a different design and stuff, hopefully it'll be more like tailored for his needs. The process had started, I think, in January, and then in March, when the Dalhousie University, that all stopped, so then the students stopped working on the project, and then when I touched base with Canine Orthotics, it was great because they said they had hired the students to finish the project. It sounds hopeful, so I'm really, really hoping that it'll work out for him. Paws crossed, fingers crossed.
Okay, that was for the dog people. Here's one for the cat people. Prunella is a 5-year-old Sphinx who lives in Regina. We all know how cold the prairies can get in the winter, so Prunella's owner makes sure she has suitable ensembles all year round, courtesy of a crafty family member. Prunella even has an Instagram account to show off that style. Okay, cute. And that's our show for you tonight. Thank you for watching. We're preempted tomorrow at 11 because of hockey, so I'll see you back here on Monday. Have a great night, everyone.